Hello, this is Vlad and a new story from my channel, Amazing Stories. Pavel Pavlovich, your son is in intensive care. Please come. The phone slipped from his hands and hit the carpet with a thud. Pavel sat on the edge of the bed, staring into the darkness of the bedroom. 3 a.m. again. The last time in the past 2 years, he had been called to the police, the hospital, or the enraged parents of yet another girl Artyom had used for fun. "Oh, God, not this," he whispered, fumbling with his clothes. The hospital greeted him with the uneasy silence of its night corridors. The nurse on duty, recognizing his name, nodded with a strange sympathy. "Second floor, on the right. The doctor is waiting for you." Dr. Samoylova was silent for a long time, leafing through papers, as if choosing her words. "Your son was driving while heavily intoxicated. There was a girl in the passenger seat. She was in the next room. Concussion and broken arm. And here's Artyom, he crashed into a pole at high speed." She looked up. "We've done everything we could, he'll live, but there's serious spinal damage." Pavel felt the ground shift beneath his feet. How severe is the paralysis of his lower limbs? Perhaps we can't give a temporary, precise diagnosis. Time is needed for tissue recovery, rehabilitation, psychological support, but in his case, there are no guarantees. He saw his son through the glass of the intensive care unit. Artyom lay hooked up to numerous tubes and wires, pale, his eyes closed. 22 years old, his whole life ahead of him. And here's a wheelchair. Pavel leaned his forehead against the cold glass. Fragments of memories flashed through his head. Here's Artyom at 3 years old, reaching out to him with his little hands, laughing heartily. Here he is, going to first grade, so serious, in his new uniform. And here he is, bringing home a bad grade to the teenagers and shrugging his shoulders. So what, you'll figure it all out anyway. But at 16, he came home drunk for the first time. At 19, he's already crashed his third car. Where did I lose my son? Pasha didn't know the answer to this question. When his wife died of natural causes, he swore that their child would be happy, that he wouldn't want for anything and would receive the best. He kept his word. The best schools, the best tutors, toys, cars, clothes, and travel. Only the happiness in his son's eyes seemed to diminish. And the emptiness grew. Pavel tried a couple of times to arrange a personal life. Tatiana, an architect, smart, kind. Artyom was 10 then. "Dad, she's not Mom, she's a stranger. Why do we need her?" Tanya left after 6 months, unable to withstand the cold hostility. Then there was Natasha, a psychologist. Artyom was 16 then. "Dad, if this woman teaches me about life, I'll go live with my grandfather." Natasha didn't stay long either. So Pavel was left alone with his son, who was turning into a stranger, a cruel person. 3 weeks in intensive care, another month in a regular ward. Pavel came every day, but Artyom barely spoke, staring at the ceiling, turning away to the wall, and when he did speak, the first thing he demanded was, "Arrange a flight for me to Europe." At least there are modern clinics and specialists there, unlike here in this dump. Quote, "You know, Artyom, the doctors say it's impossible now." "Why is that?" His son looked at him for the first time, and there was so much venom in those eyes that Pavel recoiled. "You can do anything if you want. You have connections, money. So provide me with proper treatment. I don't want to remain disabled." Quote. Pavel left the ward and stood for a long time in the hallway, leaning against the wall. A nurse asked sympathetically if he needed help. He shook his head and slowly walked toward the exit. In the car, he took out his phone and dialed a familiar number. "Igor, can you meet now?" The friends had known each other for 40 years, studied together, built a business, cared for their parents, and rejoiced at the birth of their children. Igor was the one in front of whom Pavel could afford to be weak. They sat in a nearly empty cafe. Pavel talked and talked, unable to stop, about his son, about Varya, about demands, and about how he no longer recognized his child. It seemed I had created a monster, given him everything, and he had turned into a callous egotist. Igor was silent for a long time, fiddling with his cold cup of coffee. "Are you sure you gave him everything?" Finally, he said. "What do you mean?" "Money, things, opportunities, that's not everything, Pasha. You gave him an understanding of the value of what he has, taught him to respect others, showed him what true responsibility is." Quote. Pavel wanted to object, but stopped himself. No, he didn't teach him anything like that, because he himself was always buying his way out of school, the police, and problems. He solved everything with money, quickly, effectively, and without consequences. Well, it seems the son has learned his lesson. You can do whatever you want, because a father will always help out. Now is the key moment, Igor continued. If you give in again, send him abroad, surround him with comfort, everything will go on as before. Yes, perhaps he will recover physically, but inside it will probably get even worse. And what are you proposing? Cut him off from all the benefits. Let him live without luxury, in Spartan conditions. Let him learn to appreciate what he has. But he is paralyzed. He needs help. Exactly. And I know someone who can help and teach. True, she won't be released for another week. I negotiated her parole. A prisoner, or what? Pavel shook his head incredulously. Are you kidding? Listen to her story and then decide. A week later, they met. Anna turned out to be a woman of about 30 with a short haircut, a charcoal figure, and a very direct and firm gaze. She spoke calmly, without emotion, but behind this calm, you could sense enormous inner strength. I worked as a technologist at a dairy plant. A good position, a normal salary. Director Sokolov was known for his love of young employees. Those who agreed got promoted. Those who refused were fired for far-fetched reasons. She fell silent. When he approached me, I said, no. The next day, I received a notice of dismissal for violating labor discipline. I talked with the girls, and we decided to take action. There were 5 of us. We caught him in the evening, near the car, and had a heart-to-heart talk. They tied him up a bit, beat him up, and told his wife the whole truth, detailing the evidence. Pasha listened with bated breath. Sokolov's wife filed for divorce and took half of the property. He filed a complaint against me himself. Organizing a criminal group, kidnapping, and assault. He had connections in the prosecutor's office. They gave me 4. The girls were released. He didn't report them, so they were lucky. I served 3 years. Igor Mikhailovich helped get Udo. She smiled for the first time, and her face became completely different, warm. I don't regret it. Sokolov is no longer the director. And are you ready to take care of my son? Pavel quietly clarified. I'll try. I have a house in the village. It's quiet, peaceful there. I was planning to start gardening. Maybe get a scythe. Caring for a paralyzed person is, of course, difficult, but I can handle it. In the colony, he worked in the medical unit, so he has the skills. The only question is whether your son is ready for such a life. He is not ready, Pavel admitted honestly. But there is no other way. On the day of discharge, Artyom greeted his father almost joyfully. So, when is the flight? We're going to the village. There is someone there who will look after you. Artyom's face fell. Are you crazy or something? What village? I need proper rehabilitation, not you. The first thing you need to learn is how to be a human being, Pavel interrupted him. And for the first time in many years, there was steel in his voice. I gave you everything all your life, and raised you from a foolish, impudent man who, due to his own irresponsibility, injured himself and the girl. Have you ever thought about Christina? She's still in the hospital. She still has an operation ahead, and you didn't even ask how she is. What does she have to do with it? She got into the car herself. That's exactly it, Pavel said wearily. You don't even understand what's wrong with what you said. The conversation is over. Tomorrow they'll take him away. Artyom screamed, threatened, promised he'd never forgive. Father listened silently and left the room, feeling like both a traitor and a liberator. The house stood on the edge of a village 150 kilometers from the city. An old log house. The porch creaked underfoot, and inside it smelled of wood and herbs. Simple furniture, a stove, a well in the yard. No internet, TV, or other benefits of civilization. Where am I? Artyom looked around with undisguised disgust. What is this? A museum of village life. It's a house, Anna answered calmly, rolling up her sleeves. My name is Anna Petrovna. You can just call me Anya. The rules are simple. I will help you with what you physically can't handle. Everything else you do yourself. I will feed you 3 times a day, but you will also cook and help. Questions? You, Artyom barked. For the first 3 days, he just lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, refusing to eat, not talking. Anna didn't, she insisted, simply leaving the plate on the nightstand and leaving. On the 4th day, he finally ate. Hunger took its toll, and he also began to observe. Anna got up at 6 o'clock, stoked the stove, put on water for tea, then kneaded bread dough. Long, carefully, as if it were meditation. While the bread was rising, she went to the garden, returned with a bucket of vegetables, peeled, chopped, and cooked a simple but delicious-smelling soup. After lunch, she baked bread. For the first time in his life, Artyom smelled that aroma of freshly baked homemade bread, which made his head spin. Were you really sitting? He asked one evening, when the silence became unbearable. Anna looked up from the book she always read in the evenings. Really? And why? She told it briefly, without unnecessary emotion. Artyom listened, and something inside him trembled. Are you angry? Anna thought about it. You know, anger is a feeling that eats you up from the inside. The first year I lost it, then I realized that I was only poisoning myself. Sokolov is somewhere out there living his life, and I am wasting my energy and health on him. It's somehow stupid. But you lost 3 years. But at least you understood what is really important. Anna smiled. You see that sunset there? For 3 years I saw the sky only through the bars, so now every evening I go out and look. Artyom looked at the sky, colored pink and gold. The last time he looked at the sunset, he didn't take pictures for social media, he just looked. The next day the neighbors came, guys, 3 rascals about 80 years old. They brought a basket of apples and saw the guest. "And who are you?" the girl with pigtails asked curiously. "Me?" Artyom was confused. "A guest, probably, and why are you in the chair?" "Lyra, it's impolite to ask like that," Anna snapped at her. "Nothing," Artyom said unexpectedly. "I got into an accident, I was stupid. Now I'm paying for it." "Does it hurt you?" "Not anymore." "And when will you get better?" "I don't know, honestly," he said. The girl came up and unexpectedly hugged him. Quote, "You will get better. Mom says, if a person is good, then he will definitely get better." Artyom felt a lump in his throat. No one except this little girl had called him good. On the 5th day, Anna said briefly, "Well, that's it, we've laid down and that's enough, you can help. I can't walk. But my hands work perfectly. Peel potatoes, cut vegetables, wash dishes. She does it all sitting down." He tried to be indignant, but Anna looked at him in such a way that the words stuck in his throat. There was neither anger nor contempt in that look, but simple expectation. "You can do it. You can do it. You're a man." The first peeled potato was crooked, with pieces of skin. The second it turned out a little better. Well, by evening he had peeled a kilogram, and he felt as if he had unloaded a carload of coal. Anna praised him. Not bad for a first time. Tomorrow would be easier. And indeed, it did get easier. And within a week he was already deftly handling a knife. Within 2 weeks he was washing dishes without breaking a single plate. And within 3, he was helping knead dough. In the mornings, Anna rolled him out onto the porch. Artyom sat wrapped in a blanket and watched the village wake up, the sun rise, the birds sing, the first people appearing on the road heading to work. He was discovering a world the existence of which he had never even suspected. A world where there were no parties, no races, but people simply lived and enjoyed simple things, helping each other. One evening he asked, "Why did you agree to this?" "Courting a spoiled rich kid who doesn't even say thank you." Anna put the book down. "Because everyone deserves a second chance. And because I see you're not hopeless, you're just lost. I've actually done a lot of bad things." And Artyom's voice dropped. "I offended you, humiliated you. That girl Christina. I didn't even apologize. It's not too late. And how can I do this? What will I say? I'm sorry I hurt you. The truth that you understand your guilt and that you want to change and will try to become better. And if she doesn't forgive, that's her right. You can only hope and work on yourself." That night, Artyom didn't sleep until the morning. Thoughts and memories swarmed in his head. All those people he had offended, the girls he had made fall in love with him for a bet and then dumped. The classmate he had driven to the point that he transferred to another school. The waitress in the cafe he had yelled at because the coffee wasn't hot enough. It was over. 6 months. Pavel arrived in the village unexpectedly, on a Saturday morning, walked into the yard and froze. Artyom was sitting in a wheelchair by the woodpile. 3 children were playing around next to him, feeding logs, and he deftly split them, laughing, encouraging the little ones. His son's face was completely different, open, alive, bright. And Pavel felt tears welling up in his eyes. Father Artyom turned around, saw him and smiled broadly. "You've arrived." He rolled up to him in a wheelchair. Pavel hugged his son. For the first time in many years, he hugged him so tightly that he didn't want to let go. "Forgive me," Artyom whispered. "I wasn't a very good person." You tried to get through to me, but I kept quieter. Pavel stroked his back. The main thing is that you understood this. They talked for a long time that day. Artyom talked about life in the village, about the children who had become his friends, and said that he apologized to Christina, and she replied that forgives. Anna set the table on the veranda. Pavel looked at her and understood that he owed this woman the most important thing he had, the return of his son. Thank you, Anya, he said. I don't even know how to thank you. And there's no need, she smiled. Artyom managed on his own. He even helped me, and I was just there. In the evening, when Artyom fell asleep, he and Anya sat on the porch and silently listened to the crickets. You are an amazing woman, Pavel said quietly. Ordinary, she countered. She's just been through a lot. Or maybe, he faltered, not knowing how to continue. Maybe we could meet in the city? Well, just talk, have dinner. Quote. Anna looked at him carefully. Are you sure? I'm an ex-con. I don't have a prestigious job. No, you have a kind heart, Pavel interrupted her. And that's the most important thing. A month later, Artyom had surgery. The best specialists, modern technology. But the main thing was his own desire to recover. Rehabilitation turned out to be quite long and painful, but he did not give up, clenched his teeth, endured the pain, worked until exhaustion. He took his first step a year after the accident. Just a few steps with support, but still, they were his steps. Pavel and Anna stood next to him. I can do it, Artyom stubbornly repeated, taking the next step. I definitely can. And he did. 6 months later, Artyom was walking with a cane. On weekends, he'd come to the village, bringing gifts for his little friends, and Pavel and Anna finally announced to him that they were getting married. If you like this story, please support me with a thumbs up. It's a simple action for you, but it means the world to me. Thank you in advance and all the best. M.